excited because we're going to hear from so many different people. And our facilitator is Dr. Jade McEwan, who is on our research committee. She's a researcher, evaluator, and passionate advocate for co-design approaches that put people with disability at the centre. So I'll hand over to you now, Jade.
Lovely. Making sure I am not muted. I am always that person. Jade speaking. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Sheree. Wonderful stuff. Good afternoon, everybody. As Mary said, I'm Jade McEwan. My pronouns are she, her. I'm joining from the lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. I'm a woman in her early 40s. I'm visibly very pale. I have dark brown hair and I'm wearing a black jumper with black and white striped top underneath. So basically, I look like a human barcode. I'm a researcher and evaluator, as Mary said, and a proud member of the NDRP Research Steering Committee. My work, as Mary said, focuses on the intersection between human rights research and public policy that affects people with disability. I'm particularly passionate about research that's co-designed with people with disability from the very start of research and policy design. I've worked alongside advocacy organisations for many years, and one thing I've learned is that these organisations hold knowledge and connections that can change how research is undertaken, who it reaches, and its valuable impact. Often researchers discover advocacy organisations when they need to consult about a particular issue, which can sometimes happen at the end of a project's life cycle. Today is about learning how we can fold meaningful consultation with our advocacy partners into the research process sooner. This session is called Advocacy 101, Who's Who and What They Do. We'll hear short introductions from our excellent speakers, and each will tell us about who they are, what their organisation does, how they work or could work with researchers, and one thing they wish researchers understood from the outset. Please feel free to share reflections or questions in the chat as we go. We are keeping an eye out, and Sue, my outrageously clever and kind colleague from the NDRP, will help me address questions and comments as we go. So, without further ado, let's begin. First, we'll have the absolute pleasure of hearing from Diana Piantedosi from Women with Disabilities Australia, the national peak body for women and girls with disability. Diana, I hope that I got your surname right. I actually practiced it like the nerd that I am. I hope I didn't bastardize it. It's a beautiful name. Thank you for being here. We would be absolutely honoured if you'd take the floor for the next few minutes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Jade. Very close. Thank you for the effort. Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Piantedosi. I use she and they pronouns. I'm joining you from Toronto today, and I want to acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation as the traditional owners of this land. In Australia, I live between Kaurna land and Wurundjeri country, and I recognise the enduring knowledge, strength and custodianship of First Nations elders and communities. I'm the Senior Manager of Policy and Advocacy at Women with Disabilities Australia, affectionately known as WWDA. I also have a background in sociology, and my PhD is currently under examination at La Trobe University, fingers crossed. WWDA is the National Disabled People's Organisation and National Women's Alliance for women, girls and gender diverse people with disabilities in Australia. We represent and are governed by our community. That's more than 2 million women and girls with disabilities across the country. All of our work is grounded in a human rights-based framework, linking gender and disability to the full range of civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights. When it comes to partnering with researchers, we do so quite intentionally. We often receive requests to share surveys or advertise for calls for participants. But as a general rule, we won't do this unless we've been meaningfully involved throughout project development. Instead, we prefer to partner in ways that allow genuine collaboration and influence. To give a few recent examples, we are part of an advisory group for a University of Melbourne project led by Natalie Sheard, exploring AI and discrimination. And WWDA are one of 6 DPOs on the International Research Advisory Board for Disability Matters. That's a major international project involving universities in Canada, Singapore, the UK, and Australia, investigating how centering disability can drive innovation and expand equity, diversity, and inclusion in health research. When I think about what I wish researchers understood before approaching us, yes, it's well established that disabled people should be involved in research about us, but what's less understood is that involving us early in the formative stages of project design actually sets your research up for success. We can offer practical and methodological guidance on your research design, recruitment, and data collection. We ask the right questions to make sure your approach is fit for purpose, and we can support your analysis and interpretation too. Sometimes when you are so deep into a topic, it's only in talking it through with someone who understands the lived context that you find the most compelling way to frame your findings. As a sociologist, I might be a little biased, but I genuinely believe that good research is relational. Knowledge is produced in dialogue, and dialogue matters, because even the most rigorous data won't create change if the findings don't resonate with community. WWDA and other DPOs are deeply invested in the success of your research, but we are also thinly resourced and we receive a lot of invitations to connect. So before sending that email, take a bit of time to review our website, read our recent submissions and position papers, and think about how your project connects to our work. When you do reach out, tell us why there's a specifically gendered and disability-focused angle to your project, and how you see that connecting with what we already do. Consider engaging us as genuine partners and allocating funding in your grant for our participation. That not only adds credibility, it maximizes impact. We have trusted community relationships and can help ensure your recruitment and your outputs are meaningful and fit for purpose. And plan ahead, give plenty of notice, and make our participation easy and accessible. Organisations like the National Disability Research Partnership do this really well. Big shout out to Sue, Mary, and the team for the work you do. Ultimately, we share your goal to make sure research leads to real world change. Thank you. I'll pass back to Jade now.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Jade speaking. And congratulations on your PhD. I genuinely would like to read it. You've highlighted some wonderful practical ways in which researchers can connect and do meaningful work with advocacy organisations, whilst acknowledging the pressures that organisations like yourself have to manage. So, and I think we can all say we're a big fan of your worthy work, the intersection of gender equality and the rights of people with disability. Thank you very much. Next, we'll have the absolute pleasure of hearing from Luke Nielsen from Inclusion Australia, the national peak body for people with intellectual disability. Luke, thank you so much for being here. I eagerly invite you to take the floor for the next few minutes.
Thank you, Jade. So I'm Luke Nielsen from Inclusion Australia, and Inclusion Australia is the national peak for people with an intellectual disability and their families. We work on national systemic advocacy and try to make change to disability policy. Our top 3 policy areas are the National Disability Insurance Scheme, supported decision making, and employment. We have been around for more than 70 years. Since 1954. We were started by families of people with intellectual disabilities. About half of our staff are personally connected to the intellectual disability community as people with intellectual disabilities or family members of people with intellectual disabilities. Inclusion Australia has a member organisation in every Australian state or territory. Our member organisations have many years of experience of advocacy across local, state, and national governments, as well as international agencies such as the United Nations. We often work on research projects and with researchers on making it easier for people with an intellectual disability to understand and participate in research. This can include working together on easy read recruitment manuals and research summaries, developing and sharing evidence is one of our strategic goals. As an organisation, it is important for us to have research to use in our advocacy. We welcome researchers to connect with us. We will consider partnerships depending on our capacity and resources available to support our participation. So this is a part I'm going to ad-lib because it's my experience. So I've been involved in many different researches apart from Inclusion Australia. But what a lot of people with disabilities find is that it is hard to access the research world, let's just put it, because of the non-accessibility or just unless you have a paper published, some people feel that it's very hard to get access. So this is where I want to make a big shout out to the NDRP, because without the NDRP, they make it easier. But also what I would encourage is people to just reach out to people with disabilities, but also make it inclusive, because we're all here for one reason, and that is to make it easier for people with disabilities to participate in this wonderful work. Thank you very much.
Jade speaking. Thank you, Luke. Your points about researchers engaging with individuals, particularly those with intellectual disability, that support participation and that make research inclusive are critical, very important, and a good reminder for all of us. Very much appreciated. Our next speaker is Melanie Chatfield from Blind Citizens Australia, the national representative organisation of people who are blind or vision impaired. Melanie, we are delighted to have you. Thank you for coming. Please take a few minutes to share with us your important and critical messages.
Thanks, Jade. Hi, everybody. As Jade said, I am Melanie Chatfield, National Policy Officer with Blind Citizens Australia. We're governed and managed by people who are blind and vision impaired. All of our board and most of our staff have lived experience, myself included. There's over 500,000 people in Australia who are blind or vision impaired, and we've got a membership base of around 3,000 people. We're a pretty small but important cohort, and we do work really closely with our other sensory disability partners like Guide Dogs and Visibility and Vision Australia. Our purpose, we are membership driven, so our purpose is to inform, connect and empower not only people who are blind and vision impaired, but also the broader Australian community. The input we receive from our members directly contributes to the content we produce and the services that we provide. So from an informed perspective, we do weekly emails email newsletters out to our members. We hold monthly meetings. We share information and we consult on priority issues for our members. We connect, so we support local branches across Australia. We have peer connect groups. We have special interest groups, both locally and nationally. And then a major part of our work is systemic and individual advocacy. So we advocate through submissions to inquiries like the Disability Royal Commission and Disability Standards on Education. We campaign for accessibility on things like touchscreens, audio description, banking, electoral voting, taxi and rideshare refusal. We provide advice to government and others in the form of policy positions and representation. And our individual advocacy work, where we provide advice and support members who face discrimination due to their blindness or vision impairment. We work really hard to resolve issues in a constructive and educative manner, and we draw on more formal processes where we can't find a mutually agreeable solution, and that means supporting our members to go through to the Australian Human Rights Commission. Last year, we closed over 90 individual advocacy cases, and the majority of those were related to dog guide refusal, education and employment adjustments. In terms of working with researchers, so we have experience participating in both single and cross-disability research and policy-related projects such as disability standards and telecommunications. We collaborate through co-design, providing lived experience input for studies, and we offer data from our member consultations, participate in expert panels and our advocacy campaigns as well. So in terms of recommendations for us, I would say to you that blindness is a spectrum. So it is a very different lived experience for someone who is blind at a young age versus a degenerative condition that results in low vision or legal blindness, or indeed acquiring blindness through a condition, injury or an illness. We all use quite different accessibility tools and different ways of finding our way in the world. So accessibility for people who are blind and vision impaired is key. Access to information and the exclusion of participation by people who are blind and vision impaired is probably our number one discrimination complaint. So I'd encourage you to think about accessibility from the outset and to engage with us early, as I've heard other speakers say, and particularly if your research involves the design of a product. Really encourage you to use user testing from the design phase and throughout development. That testing should include several people who use different accessibility technologies with varying levels of experience in using that tech to ensure that everyone who is blind and vision impaired, their needs can be considered. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Jade speaking. Yes, powerful, amazing, not surprising, Melanie. Your emphasis on accessible communication and clear expectations is such a practical takeaway for researchers and policymakers alike. I also appreciate your message about individualisation. What works for one person will not necessarily work for another. I often think the more practical we are, the more likely that things will be implemented and stick. So thank you again. And finally, for this round, we'll now hear from the delightful Julian Lawrence from People with Disabilities Australia, the national cross-disability rights and advocacy organisation. Julian, thank you for the pleasure of your company and time. The floor is yours for the next few minutes.
Oh, thank you so much, Jade and NDRP. Friends, I'm Julian from PWDA. Many of you might know me, and for those who don't, it's lovely to meet you today. I'm on Gadigal land, and it's a lovely day. I'm he, him, but really I'm fine with anything, to be quite honest. I'm a person with disability, and yeah, it's been a fantastic experience working with PWDA. I know that we're the cross-disability peak in Australia. We're really also proud that we're now the official peak for the LGBTQIA+ community with disability. And just to shout out now that we would love to hear work more in that space. So if people got some ideas, let us know. But that's a really wonderful opportunity for our community, and we're really happy and proud to be representing that community as well. So that's wonderful. We're a DPO as well as a DRO, so we're led by people with disability. We're for people with disability, and the vast majority of our staff are people with disability as well. I'm a person with disability. We have a very large membership base. And they're extremely important to us, and their insights are vital to the work that we do, and really shape what we do as well. Obviously, because we're a DPO and DRO, the CRPD informs all the work that we do. In terms of partnerships, just off the bat as well, be really aware then that partnerships we will be more likely to be working on would be ones that align very much with the objectives set by our board and our members. I will say straight away, though, that we've had some wonderful experiences working with partners already, and it is very much a learning experience, and it's wonderful to see that experience develop. And I just want to acknowledge quickly Sherry and the report from Dana. Honestly, it's a really fantastic report. I've actually read it. Yes, I'm a bit of a nerd like that, but I got right into it. And I think the real value here is developing that common understanding of co-design and its actual practical application. And that report I can already relate to. You can see it really moving us towards that kind of common understanding and application. So that's great. It's really funny coming at the end of this as well, because I just want to acknowledge all that work that my colleagues did previous, that Diana, Luke and Melanie, and I want to say it's getting out of jail free almost, but I agree with everything you say, and I agree with all the points you made. You're all legends. But yeah, I mean, so it's just wonderful that we had that consistency in what we're saying. I won't take too much more time up. I want to say that PWDA works across 4 main areas, and that's not always well understood by the sector and by the people. So we have our systemic team, which many of you will know what we do there. We have our individual advocacy team, who are absolute legends and do all that direct support work. We also have a special projects and programs team, and they work on really important things of organisations around disability awareness training, advice on doing DApps, and a whole range of other things like that, including with really high profile clients, for example, the Federal Court and various other organisations. We also have a really amazing comms team, and they work a lot around membership engagement. So we do a lot of social media work, but also newsletters and so forth. What that means is when you work with PWDA is we have an incredible range of teams to draw on lived experience, and we all really try to work together in a real coordinated way. We don't always get it right. We're always working on doing that internal work better, but that's something we really pride ourselves on trying to achieve. So you can rest assured when you work with us, that's what we're doing. We're really trying to bring everybody's voice into the work that we do. Look, my big takeaway, if people, as I said, we've had really great experiences working with partners, and that's continuing. We've got a few things coming up now. My big takeaway that really comes up a lot is understanding our timeframes as an organisation, particularly as we're a DPO and a DRO. Everything we do ultimately have to go to our board and potentially a membership advisory committee as well. So to get things approved takes time. What that means, though, is when it does get approved, it means we're really on your side. If we say we're interested, we are interested, but we have to go through these processes. And those processes may be different than academic processes. I've worked in those environments as well. So just understanding that we have those internal processes, just because you've reached out to us doesn't mean we can get back to you in 3 days with a yes or a no. Just understanding that, working with us. The last thing is obviously communication about everything, and that works both ways. So that's all I want to say today. Everything my colleagues previously said is awesome. And yeah, I'd love to see you around. Thank you.
Jade speaking. Thank you, Julian. It's a pleasure to hear you talk and hear more about the worthy work of PWDA. And I think your practical tips are very wise, allowing for enough time for you to get back to researchers with a considered response, and ensuring that communication is clear and well considered are valuable messages, because sometimes the other side of the fence, as you say, we have timeframes, but we need to consider our worthy partners. But once the gates open, you really commit, and that's such a gift. Thank you for that. It has truly been wonderful to hear from all of our distinguished guests today about such critical topics. All have raised such worthy and important points. There's so many messages that I have picked up on that I would love to discuss further. But for now, in summary, we've heard from our advocacy partners and organisations that bringing highly valuable, deep, lived and systemic expertise is the everyday for them, and that they can really help researchers and policymakers embed that into their practice and achieve lasting implementable outcomes. Our advocacy partners hold strong community connections. They can help our researchers and policymakers reach the right people, gain the right insights, and again, create something that will create real world actionable change. Our advocacy partners can help shape research so it actually matters to people. It's ultimately about and designed for. And again, that's more likely to be implementable and make a difference in the lives of those that we work alongside. But our friends in advocacy can only do this if researchers and policymakers alike take the time to build those relationships and understand the valuable roles that our advocacy friends play in the landscape of the disability sector. If as a researcher or policy professional you're wondering where to start, please check out the Knowing Who's Who resource in the event pack. It explains the difference between disabled people's organisations, disability representative organisations, advocacy organisations and service providers, and gives tips on how to make contact with them. You can find the event pack via the link in the chat. Thank you, Sue and colleagues.